The last week witnessed Nigeria plunge into a constitutional crisis with the suspension of the Chief Justice of Nigeria by President Muhammadu Buhari. There have been several reactions since the suspension. Also, a former Cross River State Governor, Donal Duke, achieved victory for his presidential candidacy at the appeal court. Monday, Atiku lists names of corrupt Buhari associates. Former Vice President, Atiku Abubakar, who is the presidential candidate of the opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP, released a list of persons close to President Muhammadu Buhari who he alleges are corrupt. He listed 28 persons who he said have various corruption allegations around them, but are now close to the president and the APC. NBA charges Buhari to stop CJN trial. The Nigerian Bar Association, NBA, demanded an end to the trial of Nigeria's Chief Justice, Walter Onnoghen. The NBA made the demand in a statement ahead of the scheduled continuation of Mr. Onnoghen's trial at the Code of Conduct Tribunal on Tuesday. The lawyers' union asked the federal government to discontinue the trial and follow the rule of law. Buhari orders prosecution of Babashir Lawal. Osunbajo Vice President Yemi Osunbajo said on Sunday that Babashir Lawal would be prosecuted for allegedly stealing money earmarked for the displaced victims of Boko Haram insurgency. The vice president said President Muhammadu Buhari had prevailed on anti-corruption agencies to prepare criminal charges against Mr. Lawal, who served as cabinet secretary from 2015 until he was sacked on October 31, 2017, over allegations of stealing millions of emergency funds. Obasanjo attacks Osunbajo, says traitor money and idiotic program. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo attacked Vice President Yemi Osunbajo, saying that the vice president has displayed executive recklessness and abuse of office. He made the statement in an open letter titled Point for Concern and Action, which he distributed to journalists at a press conference at his house at the Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library, Abeokuta. Osunbajo must have gone for, "If you can't beat them, join them," he said. Tuesday, 36 governors will work for Buhari's re-election, and GF Chairman Governor Abdulaziz Yari of Zamfara State said the 36 state governors would for many reasons work to ensure the re-election of President Muhammadu Buhari in the coming election. Mr. Yari, who is the chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum, NGF, stated this in Abuja at the inauguration of the Forward with Buhari Grassroots Mobilizers Goodwill Ambassadors. Council of State approves N27,000 as new minimum wage. The National Council of State approved N27,000 as the new minimum wage at a meeting held at the Council Chamber, Presidential Villa, Abuja. Following the approval, the federal government sent the minimum wage bill to the National Assembly for legislative process on Wednesday. EU's election analysts, observers arrive Nigeria ahead of the Nigerian 2019 general elections. 11 election analysts and 40 long-term observers deployed by the European Union Election Observation Mission (EUEOM) arrived Nigeria. The team's chief observer, Maria Arena, a Belgian and member of the European Parliament, disclosed this on Tuesday at a press briefing at the Transcorp Hilton Hotel in Abuja, where the mission is headquartered. 2019, Buhari assures EU of credible elections. President Buhari said he is impressed with the arrangements by the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) for the general elections and is sure the commission will deliver a credible poll. FG wants Onnoghen out of office. Counsel Olu Umar, the Nigerian government prosecutor in the ongoing trial of Chief Justice Walter Onnoghen, said on Tuesday that the government wants the judge out of office. Mr. Umar, in his opening address at the resumed hearing in the matter, said Mr. Onnoghen had been written and wondered whether he had received it or not. Mr. Onnoghen was absent from court on Tuesday as the Code of Conduct Tribunal resumed hearing of a case of alleged false assets declaration against him. Police refused to release Dino Melaye. The police in Abuja are yet to release Dino Melaye, despite a court order that the senator should be released once he meets his bail conditions. Despite claiming that his health has deteriorated, the police declined to release him. Rather, they moved him to a medical facility run by the State Security Service in Abuja. Wednesday, Buhari signs law banning discrimination against persons with disability. President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday signed into law legislation that criminalizes common discriminations against persons with disabilities. The Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act would see corporate entities and individuals face sanctions for discriminating against persons with impairments, the President's National Assembly liaison, Onnoghen, announced. Thursday, appeal court stops CCT from proceeding with Onnoghen's trial. The Court of Appeal has ordered the Code of Conduct Tribunal to suspend the trial of Nigeria's Chief Justice, Walter Onnoghen, until the determination of appeals at the appellate court. A three-member panel of the court led by Abdullah Boki gave the order on Thursday after hearing from parties in a current appeal pending before the court. Appeal Court reinstates Donal Duke as SDP presidential candidate. The Court of Appeal in Abuja on Thursday affirmed a former governor of Cross River State, Donal Duke, as the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, SDP. Mr. Duke emerged winner of the party's presidential primary in October after he polled 812 votes ahead of a former minister, Jerry Kana, who recorded 611 votes. Minimum wage bill passes first, second readings. The new minimum wage bill passed the first and second readings at the Senate on Thursday, just hours after President Buhari transmitted the draft legislation to the lawmakers. The president's letter, read to the lawmakers by the Deputy Senate President, Ike Ekweremadu, urged the amendment of the National Minimum Wage Amendment Act 2011 to raise the minimum wage from an 18,000 to an 27,000. Ohanaeze endorses Atiku, urges Igbos to vote for him. The Igbo socio-political group, Ohanaeze Ndi Igbo, on Thursday, endorsed the presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar. PDP presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar and his vice, Peter Obi during their campaign in Ori. Photo credit, official Twitter handle of Atiku. The President General of the group, John Nwodo, announced the endorsement in his statement. He said the Ime-Obi, which is the highest decision-making council of the group, took the decision in Enugu at a meeting. 2019, U.S.-UK threatened visa ban on Nigerian election riggers. Both the United States of America and the United Kingdom, on Thursday, threatened to punish anyone found guilty of either instigating violence or plotting to rig the elections. In separate statements issued by the Embassy of the United States and the British High Commission in Abuja, the two countries pledged their commitment to ensuring free and fair elections in the country, saying the 2019 elections is important not only for Nigeria but for the African continent. Friday, Buhari suspends Onnoghen, swears in new Chief Justice of Nigeria. President Muhammadu Buhari swearing in new acting CJN, Justice Ibrahim Tanko Muhammad. President Muhammadu Buhari has just sworn in a new Chief Justice of Nigeria after suspending current CJN, Walter Onnoghen. The swearing was done after the president signed the new Executive Order 007. Onnoghen's suspension is constitutional, says Sagai. The chairman of the Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption, ITSE Sagai, has defended the suspension of the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Walter Onnoghen, who is facing charges for alleged fraudulent assets declaration. Courts issue conflicting judgments on APC having candidates in Zamfara. A high court sitting in Gusau, Zamfara State, on Friday ruled that the governing APC actually conducted primaries in the state and should be allowed to present candidates for the electoral contest. An Abuja court, however, ruled otherwise. Real reason I quit 2019 presidential race, dump ACPN. Ezekwesili, a former vice president of the World Bank, Obiageli Ezekwesili, released a statement posted to her Facebook page explaining the real reason she withdrew from the 2019 presidential race. In the statement, Mrs. Ezekwesili said she had to exit her party, the Allied Congress Party of Nigeria, because of the transactional attitude of its officials. Saturday, new CJN swears in election tribunals. Acting CJN, Justice Ibrahim Tanko Muhammad. The acting Chief Justice of Nigeria, Tanko Muhammad, inaugurated members of the National Assembly, the Governorship and State Assembly election petition tribunals. Police, SSS bar journalists from Onnoghen's house. Journalists were barred from accessing the house of the suspended Chief Justice of Nigeria, Walter Onnoghen. Our correspondent who went to the house located close to the Supreme Court was denied entry by stern-looking security men comprised of policemen and men of the state security services. PDP suspends presidential campaign, says democracy under attack. The opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP, has suspended its campaign for 72 hours to protest the suspension of the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Walter Onnoghen. In its statement by its national chairman, Uche Secondus, the PDP said it was suspending its campaign for 72 hours in solidarity with Nigerians. People's Democratic Party, PDP, Presidential Campaign Council suspended its presidential campaign in protest of President Muhammadu Buhari's decision to suspend the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Walter Onnoghen. 2019, Duratoy Magalu's parties form coalition ahead of presidential polls. The parties of presidential candidates, Fela Duratoy, Alliance for New Nigeria, and Kingsley Magalu's Young Progressives Party, YPP, formed a coalition force in preparation for 2019 general election. 2019 elections, Buhari's victory is guaranteed, says Akpabio. Former Senate minority, Godswill Akpabio, said God has ordained the victory of President Muhammadu Buhari and his vice, Yemi Osinbajo, in the February 16 election. You can't stop election in Rivers. Wike dares APC. Rivers State Governor, Nyesom Wike, said that the All Progressives Congress does not have the capacity to stop elections from holding in the state. Rivers State Governor, Nyesom Wike addressing journalists, he expressed dissatisfaction over the threat by the state APC that there would be no election if members of the party, who are delisted by the Independent National Electoral Commission, were not relisted. Bauchi and NPP Gov candidate rejects Dogra coalition. The governorship candidate of the New Nigeria People's Party in Bauchi State, Shuaibu Adamu, has dissociated himself from the coalition formed by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogra. Jerry Gana to appeal court's verdict on SDP presidential candidate. Former Minister of Information, Professor Jerry Gana, began arrangement to appeal the Court of Appeals verdict that reinstated a former Cross River State Governor, Donal Duke, as the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party. Presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, SDP, former Governor of Cross River, Donal Duke. The Director General, G19 Presidential Campaign Team of Professor